Welcome to my video today, and today is one of the more serious videos that I'll be making in the distant future alongside a few of my funny comedy gaming videos. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and hope you enjoy. Welcome to another video today. This is going to be a lot more serious, like you probably heard in the intro where I told you to subscribe, which you should probably go do that right now. Just throwing that out there. Go tell your friends to come watch this. But yeah, no, this is going to be a more serious video, a little bit different from my serious, funny, random rage gaming videos. But yeah, no, this video is about the art of rooting for a villain. Why, you ask, I'm making this video? Because I got bored and went down this rabbit hole of philosophers, and I came upon a few, especially one in particular who this video is going to be focused on. But yeah, no, let's just get into it. The first one that I came upon is a side character. We see these type of side characters in every anime, but this one in particular is relatively new. Toji Fushiguro. We know he's the bad guy right as we start the series, right off the bat of season 2. We know he's a bad guy. He's getting contracted to kill a high school girl who's supposed to become a barrier for the Jujutsu Kaisen schools all around and stuff. But no, we idealize him as the perfect villain, the anti to Gojo. A guy who can really kill Gojo. The peak human physical feats. The physique that he has, that's where this is mainly coming from. People idealize his physique and his attitude towards other people. Which, I mean, it's fine. I mean, he is a bad guy, and I rooted for him as well for a little while, up until he shot the girl in the head. But yeah, no, I was excited when he came back for the second part of the series, or second part of the season. But yeah, no, let's look at another example. Death Note, Light Yagami. He is established to be the villain right off the bat. Like, straight off the bat. No sugarcoating it, nothing. This guy ends up finding a notebook, where you could write people's names down, and it kills them. And this guy thinks he's joking, so he writes down some thugs who probably deserve it. They definitely do. They get hit by a bus, and his first thought is, this is real. Let me become the god of the new world. Where he punishes people for things he thinks they deserve to die for. But we end up rooting for him anyways, right? Why do we end up rooting for him? I don't know, but I ended up rooting for him as well. So, this is why I came to this video, right? I wanted to uncover the tracks of where we started to root for villains, and just some modern day takes on villainy and stuff like that. But my theory was that we like villains because they change the story. There's something else. They're an X factor in the series. Like I said earlier, Gojo's Antichrist, bad wording, but Antichrist is Toji Fushiguro, right? He kills the strongest sorcerer of their time. And he's just a human with no cursed energy. My theory is that they are X factors that change what we think people should be, or how they should act. Which leads me down to one philosopher who I'd like to introduce you to. Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche. I probably said his middle name wrong. But this man is a very sad, depressed man that I was very saddened to read about. But yeah, this man's most famous quote is saying, God is dead. That's very sad to hear. But why is this important to the idea of rooting for the villain? Well, let's take a look at one of the words or ideas he spoke about. Umbermensch, or Overman, an ideal individual who transcends social norms and creates their own values. It resonates with villains who reject social norms and mortality. This represents the ultimate aspiration of humanity to overcome limitations, affirming life and creating a meaning in chaotic world. This quote right here is what I built this whole video around, right? The word Overmensch, or Overman, which I know I said it wrong. Leave it down in the comments. Come after me about it. But villains like Light, Louch, and Mikasa captivate audiences by the ways they projects social norms, their ideals, their intelligence, rebellions, and self-determination, while also illustrating the potential dangers of hubris. Yeah, I use the word hubris. I can use big words as well. Now, I would like to talk about why Overman became one of his biggest philosophies and how it related to him. Nietzsche lived a very bad, debilitating life with a lot of health conditions, migraines, digestive issues, and partial blindness. And he had a lot of physical suffering, and it was very intense and didn't allow him to do what he wanted to do, especially when he wanted to write his philosophical texts. This concept of the Overman was a reflection of what happened in his personal life, about turning hardship into strength and using creativity to create stories and villains to those stories, right? We can relate his philosophies to like Yagami, Louch, and Mikasa Shogo from Psychopaths. This relates to them because it talks about their struggles of rising up from societal constraints. This all stemmed from his thought on good and bad. He challenged the idea of good and bad. He thought that good and bad was shaped by people's traditions and moral constraints and everything like that. He thought there was no morally good or bad things. It was just on people's perspectives and social norms that force constraints on people about what was good and bad. And that's what we're going to be challenging today, right? We root for the villain in modern day culture, like Yagami, Toji Fushiguro, Louch, and all these guys. What Nietzsche challenges you to do through his philosophy is to challenge moral values. Alright, now it's time to get to specific people who I'd like to compare to Friedrich Nietzsche's quote or word, Overman or Umbrich. Right? This is a guy that was commented in my videos a few times, in my shorts and stuff like that I felt would be perfect for this video, along with Light Yagami, because why not? But we're going to get into the specifics of certain characters, like Louch Lamprey from Code Geass. I know I probably said his name wrong. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to try to talk about him and why he's so important to this theory I have, and why he's important to Friedrich Nietzsche's quote, Umberman, or Overman. Lelouch is the perfect example of rooting for the villain, but why Lelouch embodies Umbermich, Lelouch acts as a symbol who defies the Britannian oppression and defies the societal norms and expectations. This is just what Friedrich Nietzsche was talking about. The ideal person or individual who goes against mortality and rejects social norms, right? So, his goal is to create a perfect world for his sister at any cost or any means necessary. And by his sacrifice shows and symbolizes consequences. His journey reflects the sacrifice and the burden of attempting to rise above societal norms, showing that the cost of striving for greatness is very high. Now, when we talk about Lelouch, he is a revolutionary. Lelouch is the person who most fits Friedrich Nietzsche's ideal of a villain, right? He's the most. The other two are around that area, a bit of a stretch, but he is the perfect fit for Friedrich Nietzsche's ideal of Overman. Alright, more about Lelouch. He gains the power of Geass, allowing him to compel absolute obedience, and using this, he creates a persona, Zero, to lead the rebellion against the tyranny of the Britannian Empire. To reshape the world, Lelouch has to transcend societal norms. By doing this, he creates his own moral justice, where the ends justify the means. He uses his intelligence, charisma, and willingness to bear the burden of his decisions, and by doing this, he creates a figure of admiration and absolute horror. A terrorist, some people would call him. Not me in particular. I love this series. But he embraces his role as the villain and both the hero. His story is widely ranged as one of the best animes of all time. But what do you think about him being a perfect example for what I'm talking about, rooting for the villain. Because he's by no means a good guy or a bad guy. In today's societal norms, he's a bad guy. But he's revolutionizing against the Britannian Empire. So, I leave it to you, the audience, to tell me whether or not he was justified in his actions, and does he fit what Friedrich Nietzsche was talking about Overman and Umbermich. Hey you, yeah, you right there. Push that subscribe button. You think I'd let you get away? Push the subscribe button! Next person we're going to be analyzing, not really analyzing, but just telling the story of, or why I think he fits into the Friedrich Nietzsche quote, Overman or Overman. And this next one is going to maybe catch me a bit of flack, but he doesn't completely fit into it, but he is definitely one of the talking points of why I wanted to bring this up. Light Yagami from Death Note. Light Yagami, or Kira, the self-proclaimed god, shows the other side of the word Umbermish. Light defies the norm of society and blends in instead of creating a spectacle at the start of the series. As he later goes on, he is starting to create a spectacle of what he's doing by giving himself, or not giving himself, coming into the name of Kira, what people are calling him online, and living up to that I want to become the god of the new world speech, right? But the reason why I added him in here is because he defies social norms, right? He is a villain by all means, so why are we rooting for him? That is why he's in here. He does a few other things that are definitely questionable. That's why I say he's not totally a part of the word Umbermish or Overman. But yeah, no, he goes about his own law and justice. Light's downfall can be described as an overreaching and ambitious, hubris in fact. And it is a danger of imposing personal ideals on the world without checks and balances. So, what I want you guys to answer is, was Light Yagami a good person to represent the word Overmich or Overman? Or was he wrong? Tell me down in the comments whether or not who should have had his place, but he was just one of the people I thought, wow, I'm rooting for the villain right now. Continuing, Light Yagami's downfall is a perfect example of the moral corruption that happens when he went too far. Flew too close to the sun, if you get that reference, right? But Light Yagami's story is a cautionary tale of how absolute power corrupts absolutely, making this a story about a fascinating anti-hero and a chilling embodiment of Nietzsche's warning about unchecked ambition. Friedrich Nietzsche never really quotes this unchecked ambition, but in a short section, he talks about whoever fights monsters, see to it that in the process he does not become a monster, and if you gaze long enough into the abyss will gaze back into you. You've probably heard this in modern day videos, movies, and stuff like that. Batman in particular, he definitely had that line in one of the movies. I think it's the one with the Justice League. But for Light, it starts at the beginning of the story. He has noble intentions of eliminating crime from this world and creating a nice, perfect world. But as he begins to use his power with the Death Note, he slowly succumbs to megalomania, meaning an obsession with power, or an obsession to exercise the power that is given to you. Through this, he becomes a tyrant himself, and his ambition blinds him and transforms him into a monster, mirroring Nietzsche's warning of unchecked balances. So, in the comments, tell me, does he fit into this? I think he does. I think he's the perfect example of Nietzsche's warnings and Nietzsche's Overman, but taken to an excess, leading him into hubris. Last person I'm comparing, but certainly not least, Mikasa Shogo from Psycho-Pass. Now, tell me if I said his name wrong. I've never really watched this. I've just looked up the information about him and his psychology and stuff like that. But when I came into this, Mikasa and Light Yagami are very similar. They both were opposing systems of law, but Mikasa was opposing the symbol system, a system which enforces orders through technology. Mikasa, instead of following, he advocates for free will and in diversity. The decisions Mikasa makes it a challenge for the viewer if his actions are justified through violence by visions of freedom. So that's my question to you. Was he justified? Does he fit this Overman that I've been talking about for the past 12, 13 minutes? But let's move past that, right? Mikasa, right? He is the embodiment of the word Overman, or Umbermish, sometimes. In a sense, he is, right? He transcends conventional mortality, orchestrating different acts or rebellions, and exposing the flaws of the system. However, in the pursuit of freedom, is nihilistic. He offers destruction without showing a clear alternative, showing the dark side of Nietzsche's vision. He challenges the audience with questions of whether his ideals, individuals, and freedom justifies his methods, and this mirrors Nietzsche's idea of Overman. But his character is a very chilling critique of the world without true freedom and cost of rejected and conventional immortality. But where Shogo really aligns himself with Nietzsche's ideal of Overman is in his ability to impose his ideals on the rest of the world. Although his actions highlight the danger of his philosophy and how it can lead down a dark and narrow path of only destruction and exposing flaws without something greater being built. His story leaves all the readers questioning whether true liberation is achieved without guiding principles, making him not just a villain, but a deeply thought-provoking figure who challenges both the characters and the audience to reevaluate their understanding of mortality, free will, and the pursuit of meaning. To finish this quote-unquote serious video, where I told you to subscribe a few times. Yeah, you guys. I know you guys who made it to the end of this video thinking, oh, maybe I just won't subscribe. You're going to subscribe. Do it right now. I know where you live. But let's finish this off. What makes people root or idealize these fictional characters? In my personal opinion, I think it's the way that they change the story. I don't think there's any like big moral thing behind it. I think they just change the story and add something interesting into it, where we're like, oh, we're used to these super serious type characters and, you know, don't really have any emotion behind them, because most MCs nowadays kind of suck ass. But that wasn't any shade thrown at anybody. Hunter x Hunter fans, I wasn't coming after you. There's no need for you guys to be at this video. Don't even try to come here, bro. I already got the hate from the last one. But most people are drawn to morally ambitious people or characters because they reflect real-world problems. I think this is also another good point. I think Light Yagami reflects that people don't like crime. You know, he wanted to take the moral high ground and take out crime, but became a villain in the end. The Louch, he wanted to revolutionize, which just happened over in America and France, I think, and a few other places, I'm guessing. Don't quote me. But I think this is a good point that I would like to bring up, that these characters are fictional, but they have real-world problems they're talking about or tackling in their shows. But in these shows, the villains aren't just evil for the sake of being evil. They're evil to make you relate to them, make you want to root for them, in fact. But I think that the characters I brought up in this video are good for the points that I made, or the points that I was comparing to Nietzsche's Overman. But as I stated earlier, these characters were made to be reliable, and their actions made to be justifiable through philosophies and the world they live in. So, like Louch, he lives in the Britannian Empire, that world where revolutions happen every now and then, and Louch is now doing his own rebellion. He's revolutionizing the world and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think these characters are made to be relatable to us and make us want to root for the villain. I think Nietzsche just had the perfect view that I was looking for in this video. If you agreed with this theory that I pulled out of thin air and definitely did not, you know, just go insane reading philosophies and whatever, consider subscribing and giving me a like for future videos, and leave a comment on your opinions on this theory, your own opinions. I'll read them all, probably respond to them all down in the comments. I always do. But thanks for watching. Bye-bye.